viewers, Dice and Dragons is back. We're in our new filming space, and today we got a special game for you. And just to highlight a new feature on the channel, take a look at some of the games that are visible behind us. You may be seeing them on an upcoming review, and as you can see, I'm pumped for the game, I'm pumped for the movie, got the hat, got the shirt, and I've got a special reviewer with me today. She's got that special place in my heart. Yes, she comes with me to all of the MCU movies. Don't you guys wish you were just as lucky as I am? And with that being said, I'll let Julie tell you about this special game today.
So today we're playing and reviewing Marvel Avengers Infinity War Thanos Rising. It's a dice chucking game for 2 to 4 players. Should take about 45 minutes. It's cooperative, which makes it one of my favorite types of games.
Yeah, she really doesn't like playing me in competitive games. I'm ruthless. She pretends she's not ruthless. She's ruthless.
So that being said, it looks great. I got all our favorite characters, all our favorite villains. So I'm looking forward to throwing some dice and playing to beat Thanos up. I'm excited.
Yeah, this really looks like a great game. The license looks like it's been used to a very good effect in this game. It is produced by USA Opoly, and the game was designed by Andrew Wolf. The game is a little bit on the pricey side for a dice chucking game. Probably has something to do with the license. Now, is this game going to be worth your money? Well, we're going to take it to the table and we'll let you know. But before that, you're always going to, well, normally be grab a drink and grabbing your buddy, but in this case, it's my best friend. And let's play the game. So, you think the Guardians are in the game?
I think so.
I think so.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
I'm Groot.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
We're going to take a look at the components that you get in the box for Thanos Rising, Avengers Infinity War. We'll start with your rulebook. What I do really like about the rulebook is you do have the quick handy-dandy reference guide, which will give you a reference to Thanos' die, as well as the different power dice. Now you have the red power dice, which primarily correspond to battle, as you can see here. You have the tech dice, which are the blue dice, which will primarily give you tech. Green for mystic, as you see, it's primarily mystic, as well as the black for the cosmic. Now, when we get into the how to play, we'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but you're definitely going to want to keep this rule book near you during your first playthrough. And one important thing to note, and we'll start with the Thanos die for that reason, is one of the symbols has been replaced. As you can see right here, there is this Infinity Stone symbol. That actually means roll the Infinity Stone die again. If you look on the rule book, you'll clearly see here that it is a different symbol. I just wanted to highlight that to make sure that you are aware of it. Now we'll take a look at some of the other things you get. We already talked about the power dice. So you get 6 red power dice. Then you have 3 tech power dice, 3 mystic power dice, and then the 3 cosmic power dice. Now you're going to get these access to all of these dice. You will notice, as you can see in front of me, that there are some different team leaders, different locations, different teams that you're going to be working with that might have an affinity to either battle, technology, or cosmic. And we'll talk about that when we get into the how to play, but essentially as you build your team, which is the largest part of this game, you're going to be getting access to all these different powers and abilities. Now that we talked about the team, let's take a look at them. So the first team we have is the Avengers, which, as you can see here, can use 4 red power dice. So they're primarily focused on the battle power dice. And when you pick the Avengers, you get the starting character card, Captain America, who will be your starting hero. Now, the next faction that I really like, because I really enjoyed that movie, is the Wakandan faction, which is represented by Black Panther. Now, the Wakandan faction is very strong when it comes to technology. You can see Black Panther here. And by playing them, you're going to be definitely able to recruit heroes like Iron Man and even Spider-Man wearing that nice iron spider suit. Really looking forward to seeing that in the film. Now you've got your mystic heroes, which are based out of the Sanctum Sanctorum, for those of you that have seen the movies and know the comic books. And they are led by Doctor Strange. As you can see, these are your mystical group. You get the one green die. And we'll just give you a quick glimpse at Doctor Strange right there. And then finally, well, I was actually surprised by the team leader, but when you really think about the movies and the way the character is played and just how competent she is, you have the team leader for the purple one, which I like to call the Guardians of the Galaxy. So your cosmic faction, which is led by Gamora, and they're based out of nowhere, that floating head of a Celestial, which I think is very cool. So these are your 4 different teams and the 4 different starting heroes. Now you will understand a little bit more as we get into the how to play, but these heroes are very important. They really sort of define the way that you can play your team, and they give you access to extra dice, which is very important to anyone that's played a lot of dice rolling games, especially push your luck dice games. The more die you have, the more chance you have at succeeding. Now we'll take a look at some of the other components. We have the red damage tokens that you can see right here, which will be assigned to your heroes as they take damage, and we'll cover that in the how to play video. We have the yellow counter tokens, which are for the Infinity Stones. As we were trying to stop Thanos from gaining control of the Infinity Gauntlet, we really don't want him to research or get more information as to how to obtain those stones. And as you can see that I just did, I put the counter where it would go as you play the game, and we'll cover that as we get into the how to play. You have your asset deck right here. Now, it's important to note that the asset deck contains potential heroes, as you can see, are such as Okoye, Black Widow, the Iron Spider, the Guardian Ship. I really like the Milano. I wonder why they call it the Guardian Ship, but I'm wondering if they just weren't able to get the rights to Milano, because it's based on Alyssa Milano. Now you also have the villains, such as just your general villain here, the General Outrider, and these cards are going to come out randomly, so you're not necessarily always going to have villains on the board. But it's important to note that as you're recruiting heroes, more and more villains are going to be showing up. Your objective in this game is to defeat 10 villains before Thanos is able to do what I have set up right here, which is put together the Infinity Gauntlet. Now you'll see there is a stack of bonus tokens, and I'll give you a closer look at some of the bonus tokens. And what you can do with bonus tokens is you're able to spend them on your turn or another player's turn to assist them with the task that they are doing. And they can be played at any time. So you have your battle token, which you can use to add an extra battle point, essentially an extra battle score to your dice roll. You have a tech token, as you can see right there. We have the mystic token, and of course the cosmic token, which are the 4 different resource types that are available in this game. Now you are also able to get some tokens that have text on it. As you can see right here, you can get one that would let you remove 2 damage from a hero, and that can be quite important in terms of keeping some of your heroes alive as you're trying to defeat Thanos, or also protecting the potential heroes that you can recruit that will be out on the game board. And we'll talk about that as we get into the setup and the how to play. And one that I also really like here, this one would actually allow you to remove a counter from the Infinity Stone track. So you can essentially use some of your abilities to delay Thanos and hopefully let you succeed in stopping him from completing the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, just because they're nice and shiny here, I figured I'd show you them. We have, of course, the Infinity Stones. Now, I'm gonna try to remember what each of them do, but I think I might get it wrong. For example, I believe we've got the blue, which is the Space Stone. Green is Time. We have the Soul Stone right here. Now, there's the purple one, which I know was in Guardians, and I'm not sure what it does. We got the red one, which is known as the Aether, and I know that was in Thor. And then there's the orange stone, which is, I believe this is the soul stone. And I don't remember when, we actually haven't seen that one yet. Looking forward to seeing that in the movie. So we have all of the stones. Now we'll explain exactly where you put them during setup because you don't put them actually on the gauntlet. They're going to go on these counters that correspond to their color. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the stone at the top of the counter. You're going to count down until Thanos gains the Infinity Stone. Once he does, you will flip this over, and what this does is it gives Thanos an extra ability. So for example, when you're rolling the Infinity Stone die, when red comes up after Thanos has completed learning or obtaining, we'll say obtaining the Infinity Stone, this ability will then occur during the turn. So you really want to do your best to stop him from gaining any of the Infinity Gems because it'll just make the game that much more harder. We also have this nice Thanos figure, and it's not just a statue, it's actually a really cool part of the game, and I really liked what USAopoly did in including the Thanos figure. We'll get into it a little bit more in the how to play. And then you have your sector grid. What's going to happen is Thanos will be in the center right here, and then as you can see there is 3 angles to each sector. You're going to have 3 different assets cards out in those 3 sectors. Now it may be heroes, it may be villains. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, and we'll cover that in the how to play and the setup. And then last but not least, we of course have the tokens. So these are the team deployment tokens, and I'll try to get that it's a little bit closer. 1 for each team, and then what will happen is as you deploy your team, you're going to pick what sector they are going to be in during your turn. Now, that doesn't really seem like a big deal right now, but it will definitely have an effect, especially as you're playing with Thanos and rolling the Thanos dice. You can see there's a potential for him to move left, right. That's really going to affect how you want to strategically place your heroes. And I think we've got everything nice and well set up there. So we're now going to get into how you play Thanos Rising, Avengers, Infinity War. Stay tuned. Now we're going to take a quick look at how you set up Thanos Rising, Avengers, Infinity War. And one of the things that I really like about the setup for this game and just the game in general is it's very easy to get to the table. There's not a lot of setup involved. The first thing you're going to want to do is get your boards out and make sure they're in a good position. You're going to want to take out the Infinity Gauntlet, get your Infinity Gem counter boards out and make sure that they are on the counter side up. You're not going to start with Thanos having any of the gems unless you maybe want to do that just to make the game harder. Now don't forget the game is a 2 to 4 player game, and I do think you can actually play the game as one player. You just have to take control of 2 teams. So make sure you've got your teams ready. For the purpose of teaching you how to play, we're going to be playing as Team Guardians of the Galaxy. We also have to have our deployment token. We've got our team leader, Gamora, and I'll also be playing as Team Wakanda because I just love Black Panther. Really, really enjoyed that movie. So we've got our team board, our Black Panther deployment token, and of course, the man himself, Black Panther. Now make sure that you have your die within reach of the player. So make sure you've got your 4 different types of power die. You're also going to need your bonus tokens, which are a really big part of the game. Make sure you have your damage tokens and your Infinity Gem counters available as well. Now then you're going to want to start shuffling up the asset deck. And make sure you do a good job with the shuffle because you want to mix in everything. There is not as many villains as there are heroes in the game, and you do need to beat 10 villains to successfully defeat Thanos, and you have to do that before he gains control of the gauntlet and gets all of the stones. So get a nice mix in there, and before you deal it out, take Thanos and place him facing a random sector. So as you see right now, I place him kind of in between 2 sectors. That's not going to work. He really needs to be facing one sector. That's going to tell you where he's attacking. And also, it will really work well with his movement because as he moves around the board, he's going to be attacking different sectors. Also, don't forget to place your infinity gems on the respective counter boards, as they will not be placed into the Infinity Gauntlet until Thanos has successfully obtained them. Now that we've got all of that set up, the next step is to just deal out the asset deck. So you place 3 cards in each sector. We got Groot. We also have a villain, the General Outrider, and we also have Star-Lord. Now, after I've just dealt everything out, you can see that there's actually only one villain on the board. So that just goes back to what I said about making sure you get the deck shuffled properly, because you do want to get some villains on the board early on. You want to defeat them, because the longer you don't have any villains on the board, the more difficult it can be to win the game, because Thanos might have a lot more time to actually research the Infinity Gauntlet if all the villains come out just at the end. And so we're not researching the Infinity Gauntlet, obtaining and researching the locations of the gems themselves. Now that we have actually just gone over the setup of the game, and as you can see, it's very simple and straightforward, let's teach you guys how to play. Now, as you can see, I've just adjusted the game boards to give you guys a clearer view as to what's going on as we explain how we play the game. And for this first part of how to play, we're going to focus on Thanos, because that is really going to be almost the first thing that you do. The first thing that you're going to do is decide what sector that you're going in, and that will affect the heroes that you can recruit or the villains that you can defeat. Now, defeating the General Outrider is a pretty strong move and not a bad thing, but as you can see right here, it requires Cosmic and Mystic. And if I'm starting out with Black Panther, which I've decided to do, he's going to be the first player. I don't know if that's really where I want to go. Black Panther really is more of a battle and a tech character because he starts with the blue die. So we really want to try to use his strength. And it's important to note that right here, Black Panther, it says if you have another tech hero, so you've got the blue tech symbol there, you can add a blue or a green die to your roll each turn. And that's the reason why these team leader heroes are important. They give you access to some extra die, and you really want to play to their strength. So for the first part of the game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to acquire Shuri, because Shuri is fairly easy for me to get with 2 battle and 1 tech, as I'm going to be rolling the blue tech die, which has the chance to have 2 tech come up, and it has a lot more chances to also just have that tech spot come up. But before we do anything, we have to figure out what Thanos is doing. And that's why I said the first part of this playthrough is going to be all about Thanos. We'll cover everything that he can do based on the die roll of the Infinity die, the Infinity Stone die, and the Thanos die. There isn't really going to be too much variety to the Infinity Stone die, but we'll go into depth on the Thanos die. So let's roll the die and see what happens. Well, we actually got the Infinity Stone die, which means we're going to actually roll the Infinity Stone die again, and we got a yellow that came up on the Infinity Stone die. So for this turn, for example, we would get one step closer to obtaining the Mind Gem. So sorry, Vision, you're getting a little bit in trouble there. And we would then roll once again the Infinity Stone die, and we've got the Aether, the red one, and we're now 1 step closer to obtaining that as well. So that is what this symbol means. You would roll the Infinity Stone die again. Now we'll just remove the counters from the board, and we'll take a look at what else could potentially happen. Now let's say we actually roll this symbol, which is the left, which means Thanos will now rotate left, which means I like to just put it near the game board at the edge of the table, and it will tell me where Thanos rotates. So he's going to rotate to the left, changing the sector that he's in and the heroes that he is damaging. the other option that you would have with Thanos would be, for example, if he rolled right, he would then move to the right. And that would put us potentially in a lot of trouble because he's now facing off against our team that has been deployed in that sector, meaning he can actually attack the active player. You also have the Infinity Gauntlet that will show up, which means that when that shows up, Thanos will then activate all of the different all the different villains that are on the board, activate their special abilities, which can be quite nasty. And before we get through all the how to play, we'll take a look a little bit closer at some of the villains to show you what can happen if a lot of them are on the board and this nasty Infinity Gauntlet symbol happens to come up. It's not something that you really want to see very often. Now, for the purposes of the how to play and to teach you guys what will happen, we're going to say that Thanos rolled R, moved right, so he did move into the sector with Black Panther, and he rolled the red, so we'll say that he rolled R and red. And he's now one step closer to figuring out the Aether. Now what happens is every turn, no matter what happens, Thanos will attack and damage heroes in the sector that he's in. Now when your team is deployed in that sector, they will take damage as well. So in this case, Black Panther would actually take 1 damage. Now be careful, remember, like I said, your team leader really gives you a lot of extra abilities. Not a lot of extra abilities, but 1 extra ability in terms of the amount of die that you can roll. And that is very powerful and something that you really don't want to lose as you're playing the game. Now that we've covered in detail what Thanos can do, let's take a look at what Black Panther is going to do on his turn. And we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Well, we've taken a hit. Team Wakanda is a little hurt, but that's okay because we're tough. We're from Wakanda. We've got the tech. We're going to beat Thanos. And it's now our turn, so he's in a little bit of trouble. We're going to take our starting die, which you can see from your starting die pool listed on your team card, which is 3 of the battle dice and 1 tech dice. Now this is a push your luck dice game, meaning that every throw of the dice, you have to either assign a die to a card or, like I just did, sorry, that's the wrong one. Let's at least put something proper on there, like a battle, or you have to forfeit a die, removing it from your die pool. That's the push your luck element of this game. Now, the reason that I, as Black Panther, decided to go to this sector was, I want to save my little sister there, I got to save Shuri, but the main reason actually is Shuri's a tech hero, which goes very well with Black Panther's ability, which would give him an extra blue or a green die, giving me a little bit more access to the Mystic, which would go very well with defeating that General Outrider later on. So I really want to acquire Shuri. Let's see if I can do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is roll the 4 dice, and then I will need to assign them. In this case, I've rolled a double tech, a battle, another battle, and a mystic. Now don't forget that every team also has a team ability. In the case of Team Wakanda, led by Black Panther, if you're going to roll 4 of the tech symbols, you're then able to remove 2 damage from a hero, which would have been nice right now because I could get rid of that 1 damage on Black Panther. Now, what I can do in the game is I can assign as many die as I would like to recruit team members or damage villains. Now, if you do happen to damage a villain, they have to be in your sector unless you have a special ability or a team member that gives you that ability. So for example, right now I can't damage the Outrider, I can't place any cards, any die on any of the heroes that are outside of my sector. I can only place die on the 3 cards that I have been deployed to, that are in the sector that I'm deployed in. In this case, I already have attack, so I will assign that to Shuri. I have 2 battle dice, I will assign that to that score, and I'm left with only one die. There's not much I can do with this one die. I won't be able to gain the Statesman or Nebula. So I might as well just end my turn. If I had more dice, I could keep trying to roll, but that's not what's going to happen. And then one thing I really want to stress is you only acquire heroes or defeat villains at the end of your turn. After you've rolled all of your dice, either they've all been assigned or you have none left because some have been forfeited. In this case, I'm forfeiting my last dice, and I am recruiting Shuri. I will remove all of the dice. When you recruit a hero, you remove all damage from the hero, and they now join your team. And in this case, you would then draw a new asset card. So we have the General Outrider, and you will notice that this one is a little bit different than the other villain. In this case, I would have had a shot at taking him out because you can see he's more battle and tech versus Cosmic and Mystic. I'm just going to move the asset deck a little bit closer. That's something that I should have done earlier. And that is now the end of Black Panther's turn. So I'm going to remove my deployment token. We are no longer in the field. We have retreated back to Wakanda. Well, not necessarily retreated. We are just sort of regrouping. And it's going to be Gamora's turn to take on her father, the Mad Titan Thanos. And we'll just cut as we set up and get ready for Gamora's turn. Stay tuned. Now Gamora's ready to engage her father as the Guardians of the Galaxy join the fray. I don't really know if they're Team Guardians. I mean, for those of you that are familiar with the MCU will know that as the Ravager symbol, but I just like calling them Team Guardians. And as we're very strong with regards to Cosmic, and well, not necessarily strong in Mystic right now, but we can get there. We're actually going to deploy in the sector where the General Outrider is. Now the reason for that is if Gamora has another cosmic hero with her, she gains access to another black or a red die. And in this case, we've got Groot, and I definitely want Groot on my team. And as well, Star-Lord. We also have the General Outrider, which we might want to do some damage to. And I will actually explain why maybe dealing damage to the Outrider might be actually better than recruiting those heroes. But the first thing we have to do, of course, is start off with our Thanos die and the Infinity Stone dies. So let's roll that. I'm just going to move these asset cards out of the way. We got our roll. Thanos is moving right. And we've got purple. So purple, and as I said, right. He's moving right. He's now moving into this other sector. And he is one step closer to gaining another Infinity Gem. And in this case, the active player is not in the sector, meaning we do not take damage. So he is only going to damage these heroes. I'm just going to take a quick step back because this is actually a great example because of the Outrider that's in the sector that I'm in to explain what would happen if Thanos had happened to roll the Infinity Gauntlet. As Thanos is facing this direction, let's say he had rolled the Infinity Gauntlet instead. What would then happen is he would damage the heroes in his sector, but he now triggers the ability of the General Outrider that's in the sector that I'm in. And in this case, if Thanos is in this sector, add 1 damage to all heroes. But he triggers the villain's ability. I would definitely want to check the rulebook just to make sure, but what I'm going to say is this villain ability triggers and we take damage. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. Meaning all cosmic heroes, which includes Gamora, Star-Lord, and Groot, would take damage because of this nasty little symbol, the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, we're just going to go back to what his original role is, but I just wanted to show you that example. Now, Thanos has moved right. we do not have any damage on the other, no, sorry, extra damage on those people. And Thanos is damage, War Machine, Hulk, and Mantis. As you can see the damage rising on the hero cards that are out in the sectors. If any one of those heroes has a damage track that gets full, they are then considered defeated and they go in the defeated heroes pile. And when 10 heroes are defeated, you've lost the game. So you really want to make sure that you try to save, not save, but recruit as many heroes as possible and potentially use some of your abilities if you have them, such as the team ability with Team Wakanda and Black Panther to protect those heroes. But we're not talking about Black Panther. We are on Team Guardians. This is Gamora's turn to mess with her father because she definitely has some daddy issues. We take our starting dice, which in the case of Team Guardians is the 3 red dice and 1 black die. Get these out of the way and let's roll the dice and see what happens. Well, we've got tech, battle, tech, battle. Now this actually really is not a very good roll, so I just want to make sure you can see it. On the black die, tech, 2 battle, another battle, and a tech. If you're looking in the sector that I'm in, battle isn't very useful unless I really decide to recruit Star-Lord, but I was kind of hoping to maybe recruit Groot as well as take on that General Outrider. I could potentially forfeit one of the dies, but we do have the 2 battle, which means I think I'm actually going to try to recruit Star-Lord. And that's when that push your luck and the randomness of the dice really comes into play. Because you're trying to get something, but you never really know what's going to come up. So I assign 1 die to Star-Lord, the 2 battle, and we're going to roll the next 3 die. Now I did not get any Mystic like I was hoping for, but I did get 1 Cosmic. As I only have 1 die to Star-Lord, I really want to recruit him, but it's going to be a lot harder because when you're looking at battle die, there's only 1 in 6 chance of Tech, Cosmos, or Mystic coming up. So hopefully I succeed. And I got the other Cosmic, and I did not get the Mystic. I got another 2 battle, which means I got 1 last shot to potentially recruit Star-Lord. Let's see what happens. And it's a battle, which means for Gamora's turn, it did not go well. I can't roll this die again. I can assign it to another card. I'm not going to gain anything though, so my turn is over, and I actually did not recruit a hero. We removed the deployment card, and it is now going to once again be Black Panther's turn. What we're going to do is we'll actually take you through another turn as Black Panther and another turn as Gamora. And then what I'll do is I'll just sort of jump a little bit ahead in the game and give you just a little taste as to what 2 higher level turns would be like as you've actually acquired some more heroes and Thanos has actually gotten a few of those gems. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Black Panther's next turn. Now that we're at Black Panther's second turn, and we happen to have recruited, once again, Shuri, who is also a tech hero, we have a couple different things that we can do. Because we have a second tech hero, Black Panther does get to add a blue or a green die to my starting die pool. And as you can see here, Shuri has the Mystic symbol. So by spending a Mystic symbol, I can draw 2 bonus tokens, keep 1 or discard the other. And that's great because this will give me an opportunity to show you how you can acquire and use bonus tokens. Let's take a quick look at the board and decide who we want to get. Well, I'm actually kind of thinking we want to maybe try to either acquire the Statesman because it's got a nice ability that would let us potentially heal our characters. And I can actually potentially damage or even kill that General Outrider. So Black Panther is going to deploy to that same sector that he was in before. And let's do some work. But before anything good can happen, let's see what the bat is. And let's roll the Thanos die. In this case, we get purple. So he's one step closer to gaining that purple gem. But we also have the Infinity Gauntlet, which would then trigger the villain abilities. And it says if Thanos is in this sector, add 1 damage to all the heroes. But as all of the villains trigger, Black Panther is now going to take a damage, as will Shuri, because the General Outrider was triggered by Thanos' might and the power of the gauntlet. Really hate that thing, but I would love to have one. Now we'll take our starting die pool, which is the 3 red dice, our blue tech die, and as we're trying to potentially recruit the Statesman as well as maybe deal at least 1 or 2 damage to the General Outrider, I'm going to add a green die from Black Panther's special ability, and let's see what we get. And just notice once again before I roll, Thanos did not move. We did not get a movement with him. We got the trigger villains effect. So we got our roll, and it comes up with 2 Mystic, 1 Tech, and 4 Battle. Now this is interesting, because we have a good shot at getting the Statesman right now, but I can actually damage the General Outrider, and we're going to play this a little bit dangerously. So I'm going to assign 2 die to the General Outrider, damage him, because getting damage on these guys is great, and you'll see why after we resolve the turn. And I'm going to push my luck and see if I can potentially obtain the Statesman. So let's roll. I get a Mystic, a Cosmic, and a Blast, and that's actually really not what I wanted. That was not a good roll. I would have rather had something different, but we're going to assign the Mystic. We're not going to use the Cosmic or the Blast, and let's roll again. Now I got my Tech, I got my 1 Blast. So now the 1 chance to obtain the Statesman. Let's see if I get really lucky here, ladies and gentlemen. And it's 2 Blasts, so I will not obtain the Statesman, unfortunately. And once again, that's just how the dice are rolling. We're now going to resolve all the dice. These are coming back. He has a damage. And this will take us into the bonus tokens. Now, one of the things that I could have done was use Shuri's ability with one of the techs, but as I had assigned the tech to try to get the Statesman, I could not use Shuri's ability, and my last roll was a battle, instead of a tech. Otherwise, I would have done that. But whenever you damage one of the villains, you gain a bonus token. So in this case, my bonus token is remove 1 counter from an Infinity Stone. Now, these bonus tokens can be played anytime during your turn. As our turn is resolved, can't necessarily play them right now, but I'll be able to play it. Actually, you know what? It's at any time you can play the bonus tokens, not at any time during your turn. Because if it's something else, let's say, for example, I pulled this one to remove 2 damage from a hero, I could play that during Gamora's turn to help her out if she took some damage. Or if I'd gotten the red die one, as you can see here, and actually we'll get that in front of this camera, just to show you some of the stuff you can get from bonus tokens. I could essentially give her a red die that she can roll during her turn. So they can be used at any time. As we pulled to remove 1 counter from an Infinity Stone, I'm going to remove 1 counter from the purple and delay Thanos as much as possible. This token will now be discarded. So we've gone through Black Panther's second turn. We are now no longer deployed, and we're going to take you through Gamora's second turn. Hopefully it's going to go a little bit better than it did last time. Stay tuned. Now before we get into Gamora's second turn, I realized that I neglected to do something on Black Panther's turn. And I forgot to do it because I rolled the Infinity Gauntlet and I damaged my heroes. That Thanos always attacks the heroes in the sector that he's in. So I neglected to place the second damage token on War Machine Hulk and Mantis, meaning they're getting a little beat up and we might want to help them out. Unfortunately, though, for Gamora to have a really good chance of recruiting any of them besides maybe Mantis, even then she still needs 2 Mystic, which is not great on her 4 battle die and 1 cosmic die. She would really need to recruit a cosmic hero. So we'll go back to where we were. We're going to go back to that same sector with Groot, Star-Lord, and the General Outrider. Let's see what happens. We're going to take our 4 starting die, the 3 red and the 1 cosmic, because that's all we have. And before we go, we will roll the Thanos and the Infinity Stone die. Now we get the green, so Thanos will be closer to obtaining the Time Stone. He now once again triggers all villains, so he does not move and damages the heroes again in this sector, which is a little tough on Rhodey and Mantis, and Hulk's still doing fine because, as you can see, he is a beast. And he does trigger the General Outrider, which is unfortunate for us, as all the heroes in the area will now take damage. So, not all the heroes, sorry, it's all the Cosmic heroes, Cosmic and Mystic. That's based on the ability on the card. And everyone's going to take a hit in that area because we are all Cosmic heroes. Now, if you, for example, had a tech hero like War Machine over here, in place of Star-Lord, he wouldn't be taking damage. Let's roll our dice and see what happens, and hopefully it's better than our first turn. Well, we get 4 blast. That is like the last thing that I would want, as I don't want to potentially waste a die. We're going to assign 1 blast to Star-Lord. There's really nothing else I can do. It'd be great if I had another team member that could maybe use an ability with a, sorry, I like to call it blast, but it's battle. That's just a little faux pas that I'm doing. I apologize, and we'll roll the next 3 die. Now we've gotten 1 cosmic, which I will assign, and 2 tech, which is just not really what I wanted. But still got a good chance at cosmic, and hopefully the mystic will show up. Try again. We've gotten tech and a battle. There's really not much I can do with this battle, but we'll assign it to Star-Lord. And in all honesty, after rolling this, there's really nothing I can do. I'm going to roll again just for fun. We got the 2 battle, and can't really do much, honestly. Gamora really is not doing her job at leading the Guardians of the Galaxy to success. We're not building a team, and we're just taking damage. She's rolling badly. That is actually really good for the purposes of teaching you guys how to play. You can really see the luck element of the game in terms of the dice, which can be fun. But it's also the strategy element. If I'd gone after Hulk, for example, this round, I rolled a lot of battle. I would have had a great chance of potentially recruiting Hulk, even with just these 4 die. Or even Rhodey, I got a lot of battle and some tech. But that's not really what I wanted. I am a cosmic hero when I'm playing Gamora. I want to get access to more dice. I'm trying to do that, and I'm also trying to take out the villains, and it's just not working out in my favor. And what we're going to do now, like I said just a little bit earlier, we're going to jump ahead in the game. Thanos will have some of the Infinity Stones, and we're going to have a larger team. And we'll do 2 turns, 1 for Black Panther and 1 for Gamora. And we'll just give you guys a little bit of a taste of how the game plays at a higher level and some of the dangers that come from some of the more complex, not complex, but I would say a little bit harder hitting villains. We got some of the smaller guys out now, so stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly. Now, before we start Gamora's turn, I just need to make a correction from the last turn. As you'll see right here, Drax had a lot of damage, and I realized after looking at some of the abilities, I didn't do enough damage to Drax with Thanos and Proxima Midnight in that same sector. So the Blackguard has now defeated Drax the Destroyer. That's really bad for our heroes because now we have 7 dead heroes. And when you're taking a look at the damage that Gamora has, Groot, Star-Lord, they're in a situation where if they try to engage Proxima Midnight and Thanos is there, they could all take 2 damage, and then we're going to lose the game. We will have 10 dead heroes. That's not something that we want. Let's get another hero on the board to replace Drax. So we would have Heimdall out there. And now we're ready to start Gamora's turn. As we discussed with regards to the situation, going after Proxima Midnight is not a good thing. So we'll deploy Gamora and the Guardians, or the Ravagers, if you really prefer the Ravager part of the symbol. We're deploying them to the sector that has Cull Obsidian. Let's see if we can get him out of the game. And the first thing we're going to do is obviously roll Thanos' die and the Infinity die. Now this time we get a move to the right, and Thanos is going to get one step closer to the green Infinity Gem. Oh, I just had an extra one there on the purple by mistake. Sorry about that, but he's one step closer to the green. We will now deal damage to all of the heroes in this sector. Now we're also in a little bit of a tough spot if we don't necessarily save that Guardian ship, but we're trying to get the villains off the board. We only have 3 dead. We need to kill 10 of them to win the game. This is not a great situation for our heroes. Now let's see what Gamora will be able to roll on her turn. We'll put this aside. We get our 3 red die. We have our 1 black die. As we're trying to damage Cull Obsidian, we definitely want as many green dies as possible. We do have 1 green die from Star-Lord. We get an extra blue or a green from the Hulkbuster. So we'll take a blue just because Iron Man's there. Might be able to recruit him. We get an extra black die from Thor because we have another cosmic hero. And then we also can get a red or a black die from Gamora using her ability. We're going to take a black die. Now the reason for that is Groot's special ability, and I'll give you guys a close-up on it, is that, as you can see here, spending one of your cosmic die, when you get one of those on there, will let you heal up to 2 damage. Well, yeah, up to 2 damage from your hero. And in the situation that we're in, that's a really good thing. We can also add an extra red die. We're in a tight spot. We're going to burn our bonus token and add that extra red die. So we've got a whole whack of dice here. Let's see what we can do. Now, with our first roll, we got 2 Mystic and 2 Blast that I'm going to assign. And we did get 1 Cosmic here. You can see we got a Cosmic, but it's on the Mystic die. As I am trying to defeat Cull Obsidian, really don't want to spend that Cosmic to heal right away. But depending on what's going on, I mean, this is for the purposes of teaching you guys how to play. You may want to do that in a regular game. Maybe your friends will get mad at you if you potentially kill them, because we're in a tight spot and healing would not be a bad decision. But I do still have my 3 black die, so with 3 black die, there's still a very good chance I'll be able to heal. So let's see what happens now. So there we go. We get another 2 Mystic, which I'll assign here. We get another Blast, and I'm going to spend 1 of the Cosmics to remove 2 damage from a hero. I'm going to protect our team leader here, Gamora, because she really sort of controls the team, especially with that ability to get extra die. Now we're going to take our chance with the 2 black die and see if we can get 1 more damage on Cull Obsidian. So we only got 1 planet, so we're going to heal again. We will heal our boy Groot, because as you've seen in the last little bit, healing is key. Now let's hope for the best, and hopefully we're going to get 1 more battle to deal damage to Cull Obsidian. And we did not. We got tech. We forfeit. And in the end, we actually only deal 2 damage to, well, not 2, just 1 damage to Cull Obsidian. And we would gain 1 bonus token, which is a tech. Now, one thing that we could have done, and I didn't do it, would have been to spend, well, we wouldn't have done it. Black Panther could have spent his bonus token, so he had the Mystic bonus token, to assist us. The dice were rolling well. It wasn't necessarily a good opportunity to spend a bonus token. The only way you might want to have done that, or what I maybe should have done, was spend that bonus token instead of using the Mystic symbol that we got on the red die to get another chance to get a battle and deal more damage to Cull Obsidian. Now that we've shown you guys how to play from the early stages, as well as showing you some of the advanced stages of gameplay, we're going to get to our review of the game. You've definitely seen the push your luck aspects of this game, and we'll talk about it, and you'll find out if we like it or if it's really not the game for us. Stay tuned. Now, before we get into our review of the game, I just want to highlight a slight mistake that I made during the how to play. I was activating the villains against the active player, even when the active player wasn't in that sector. As we got a couple more playthroughs in after we went through the how to play, we realized that that was a slight error. It didn't really affect how you play the game. You just don't do that when you're playing the game. Your heroes will only take damage based on the sector that they are in, not from villains in other sectors, unless that villain will specifically deal damage to the active player or the sector that they're in. Now, that being said, we're going to get to our review of the game. So, Julie, what were your general thoughts about your experience and our experience with Marvel Avengers Infinity War, Thanos Rising?
I really enjoyed the game. It's probably one of the favorite games that we've played together. I really enjoyed the fact that we really have to work together. Despite the fact that this was a very challenging game and that despite several playthroughs, we haven't beaten them yet. And I don't tend to like to lose games.
The way we lost last time was pretty shocking. Having Thanos trigger all the villains and the villains pulling off a combo that probably dealt about 4 damage to 5 heroes, that is actually enough to kill most characters. So we pretty much went from, what was it, halfway winning to
Losing.
Yeah, it was quite shocking. So be careful.
All with your roll of a dice.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's a dice chucking game. The dice aren't always going to go my way. It took you a long time to recruit any useful heroes at the start, too, don't forget.
Yes, but I think that's part of the fun that I see in it, and I know we've talked about it, and you don't necessarily like that aspect of it, but for me it adds a little bit of a challenge, and I like that you have to be strategic about what resources you try to go get and what's most important for you, and there's definitely some strategy there.
Yep.
So I really liked it. I like the colors of it. If Sammy G were here, I think he'd talk about the delicious looking gems. I really didn't want Thanos to have any. I really enjoyed going to get the different characters. We all wanted Groot.
Yes.
We all wanted to be Groot and have Rocket on our team. So I think that was well done. I think Andrew Wolf did a good job that way. I like that it's movie stills. I like that it's the movie characters that I know because I'm not the comic book fan. I'm the movie fan. So for me, it's a great game. I enjoyed playing it, and I'm looking forward to beating Thanos someday.
So what didn't you like about the game, then, if there is anything you have to say about it?
I didn't like that there was a couple of general, I can't remember what his name is right now, but that there's
The general outriders, the non-specific villains?
Non-specific villains. I thought those were a little lame. I get it. Just thought they were boring. But that's pretty much the only thing I liked most parts of this game.
Okay, no. Well, I really like the game as well, and coming from a guy that didn't really like Unearthed because I don't like dice chucking games, there is a lot of strategy and the elements like the bonus tokens that can help mitigate that luck. I know that in Unearthed you got the Delver cards, but the fact that this is cooperative instead of versus really brings that element of strategy and of the different opportunities, which I felt are limited in a lot of dice chucking games, into this game, and you have a lot of variety and different ways to go about it, and it's very well done. It uses the license well. I wasn't as big a fan of the movie stills. I would have loved maybe to see like comic book art versions of the movie characters, just to add a little bit more flavor to the game, because we're fighting Thanos, but it's not like a giant statue of Josh Brolin. It looks like Josh Brolin, but it's not quite that same quality that you would get from a high quality artifacts or a gentle giant statue. But overall, I see that the production quality is good. A little bit disappointed in some of the cardboard stock. Dice are fantastic, and I really like the art. And for a dice chucking game, I'm surprised to say that it's worth every penny, especially if you're big fans of the MCU like ourselves. I think the only thing that I really don't like about the game is how difficult it can be to get started. And then depending on the scenario that ends up in front of you as you're dealing the heroes and villains onto the board, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And that's probably the only thing that I would take away from the gameplay as a big detractor. Other than that, I think it's a great game, perfect for 2 to 4 players. And for families that are trying to game together, I think Julie and I would agree. You can teach this to your kids, even if they're like 8 or 9 years old. You play the Yahtzee, you can play this game.
Yeah,
You might
maybe
need a little bit of help though.
Yeah, they'd need help. They'd have to play with adults to get the strategy part of it. But I really liked it. So what are you ranking it?
I'm going to give the game an 8 on 10, and that's high praise coming from me, considering I really don't like random dice chucking games. I think the cooperative element, which is one of my favorite parts of tabletop gaming, is playing together on a team and having everyone in the same room. You don't get that as much with video games these days, so love that in tabletop. And that really just bumps the score up quite a few points for me, despite the fact that it can be difficult to get started. And what about you, Julie? What would you give the game out of 10?
I'd give it an 8.5. I'd give it a 9, except that I find it a little difficult to win, and since we've yet to win and we've played a few times, you know.
Oh, we made some mistakes. I mean, we let one villain out that just proceeded to constantly damage
Annihilate
us.
us.
Well, he didn't annihilate us until we made one big mistake, and
Yeah.
that was quite surprising, getting that 4 damage dealt to like 5 heroes, wiping us off the board in one turn. So remember, guys and gals, kill the villains as soon as possible, and they do combo if Thanos does activate all villains in all sectors. It is very deadly. Not all the time, but a lot deadlier than you would think, and that caught us by surprise.
So worth the money?
Definitely worth the money. It is something that I'd say any fan of Marvel, any fan of the MCU should add to their collection, because they're going to have a good time with it, and I'm sure you'll get it out for multiple plays. I even think there is some opportunities to potentially expand the game, whether it's like different versions of this sort of dice chucking style. You could apply this to other MCU movies and you still have a good time. So with that being said, we are Dice and Dragons, so we're grabbing our best friend in this case, grabbing our drinks, and don't forget to take a look up here. You'll see links to our other videos. If you take a look down at the video description, you will have the links to our social media feeds. And stay tuned for another review, because we will be back. Now, Thanos, I'm coming for you. I know I'm talking to the box. His face is on the box. His face is on the back. I'm coming for you. And it's going to be Black Panther that kicks your butt. It's my favorite. What about you?
I like Groot. He's not the main guy, but I like Groot.
You are Groot?
I am Groot. Or, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who? That's the wrong series.
Doctor Strange.